Hello, my friends. This is take 4 of our laborious process of trying to have an ISTJ ESFP interview.
Yeah!
My name's Paul. I'm the ISTJ that you all know too well. And this here is my friend Teresa.
Hello!
Who is, as you can very obviously see, is the ESFP here. And so we're mostly here to talk about the differences, the similarities we share, and how we get along together, or lack thereof, which is hardly ever, but it every now and then happens.
Small little things, you know?
So, first off, most people classify like a Myers-Briggs type by the letters, but it's actually the functions that you want to be focusing on. So, for instance, both of us are dominant sensors, and that's also the one letter that we have in common.
Very important.
Now, sensors, in case I haven't mentioned this already in my previous videos, sensors are all about like the concrete physical reality. Like I'll say, this is my hand. This is not an elephant. This is not a saxophone. This is a hand.
No metaphors here, please. It's not in our guts. We like to see what's in front of us. It's using the senses.
Like hearing all the little odd sounds all over the place. And
we know it's raining because we can hear the droplets hitting the windows.
Noticing the patterns.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is that...
Ooh.
Oh dear.
Oh my.
Well,
we have a storm. Yay!
That'll add to the atmosphere.
Yes.
Okay, so...
Dark and stormy night.
Well, I mean... we are kind of living that out. So... first off, the dominant sensing... Even though we're both dominant sensors, we're also different in terms of the introvert-extrovert of the sensing. So I am a dominant introverted sensor, which means I'm likely to gather data and facts and more like empirical data, shall we say, so that I can be informed of like what happened in the past. And if it's like playing out again, like, oh boy, that was a disaster, I can just slap it out of the way and say, not going to happen. Because I learned from the past. But on the other hand, the introverted part comes in because I have this little backlog all in my head of like where I store all of this information. But I don't often say it to people until I'm ready. Now she, on the other hand...
Yeah, I have no problem saying it anytime, given any time and place. Like, oh, it's raining and it's dark and I don't care for that.
We already mentioned that.
Yes, of course, yes. But, normal things like that. He's like, or you happen to touch it, like, oh, this is really hot. I don't want to go near that. So, just, it's the everyday things that everybody already knows, but I'm just going to state the obvious because that's what you do when you're an extrovert sensor. You just state the obvious.
Yeah, that
we do that really well. We live in the present.
Even if the obvious isn't all that important.
Yes. It's not terribly important ever, usually.
So you don't have a filter or anything to, like, weed out, like, maybe this wouldn't be something I'd like to mention because it's irrelevant?
Every once in a great while I will, if I'm among certain people, because I know they just don't care. Some more than others. Like, there are just some people, it's just like, they won't give me the time of day for that crap. They don't care any bit about it. Like, all right, fine. I won't mention how I feel about the outdoors right now or something like that. It's I try, but it doesn't usually succeed.
Whereas with me, I actually really stop and think about like, okay, does everyone want to know the top 10 greatest final battles in video games, or maybe is that something I keep to myself? Or how can I use this as a way of improving the present, because we ISTJs, we don't think ahead much, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Yes.
Because boy, do she and I have a lot of things to say against intuition.
Yes.
So moving on down the function stack, so the ESFP secondary function would be introverted feeling, which is my third function, so we're relatively similar in that regard. More of our emotions tend to be what we're feeling, and we would base a decision off of that, as opposed to the extroverted feelers, where they're like a vacuum. They're like, I'm sucking in all of your emotions. You are sad, therefore I am sad.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, we learn how to like disassociate ourselves from that and be able to like retreat into our own heads and say, okay, so I'm like feeling really uncomfortable right now. But where we're a little bit swapped is where sometimes I'll just like push myself forward because I'll say, it needs to be done. Whereas her, on the other hand...
Well, introverted feeling, it just, for me at least, I need to know about this for myself because it's just, I make a lot of decisions for values, with my faith and when I do certain things, and especially with people. That's where introverted feeling comes into most handy because whether or not they're happy or whether, because depending on where my audience is, they have certain values that I may or may not share. And for that, I'm going to dissociate myself from them and their values. I understand where you're coming from, or, I try to understand where they're coming from. And, I'm not going to be horribly offended when they say certain things because they don't, believe the same things as me, for example.
So in other words, your feeling side is a way of keeping the harmony?
Yes. I use that feeling side a lot for keeping harmony, but I think that's the P also within me trying to keep harmony. But yes, I use a lot of the feeling to determine where harmony comes into place because I want to make sure that we keep a good environment. I don't like conflict. I hate conflict with every soul of my being. I avoid it at all costs, and sometimes you can't be helped, but if it can be helped, I'm going to do something about it. And it's like gathering information, like, are they okay? Are they okay? Okay.
Well, that's why you're not an extroverted feeler, because you have to ask.
Yes, yeah. I have to make sure that everyone is okay.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, are they okay? All right, then I'm okay. And we'll move on with life.
You can't put up with just the simple, like, that look on their face. They must be sad.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, well, they could just be like Paul, where his angry eyebrows could mean, like, 10 different things.
Yeah. And it just, I have to process that quickly. That's the big thing. I want to use that to make sure that I know, okay, are we okay before I move on? Or should I, throw around a really poorly timed joke in here to try and improve the atmosphere? Or should I say something else to try and bring people together? Or, what should I do? Because I don't want to just, I don't want to say some really, really horribly crass, out of place thing to just, drive people nuts. That is not what I try to do.
Well, that's one of the main differences between, like, your type and the ENFP. Because it's been said that ENFPs are, like, I don't know how else to word it, but they, like, sort of vomit their emotions. So, like, when they're feeling really happy about something, they'll be like, yay, I'm so happy about this. You just made my day. But because she's a sensor, she's more likely to be practical about it.
Yes. She's like, I am so happy. That is good. All right, how about you? Are you doing great too? And I try to restrain it. It sometimes works, but, everyone at work can tell when I'm happy and in a good mood. But, you have a smile on your face. It's okay. They know when I'm having a bad day because I'm not smiling. That's basically how that works in my life. Mm-hmm. Or like my friends back in St. Joseph, they always know if I'm upset. It's just like, you didn't say that you're great or you're good. Something must be wrong. So, it's just,
I guess that's kind of how I am too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more so that I oftentimes think that my emotions are either irrelevant, people don't want to hear them, or they're going to lead me into a false decision.
I don't think my emotions are going to do that for me at all, because I think that the emotions, at least I try to stay impartial in that respect. I have my emotions, and I think that they can help. I think I have good instincts in that respect. That is like, I'm trying to do good, and because of that, I want to help this person, but I also want to help this person. They're both having these issues, so where is this middle ground between them? And it's because I feel conflicted about this and what you're saying, so maybe there's something here that I can help do as a result, and I'm trying to, not channel is a terrible word, but I can't really think of the right words for that at the moment. And now I've lost my train of thought. So can you repeat what you were asking? Because now I'm gonna,
Well, I forgot to mention earlier, we did this in another take, hence why I'm confused, but another main difference between an introverted sensor and an extroverted sensor is that even though we both are very hands-on type of people, it's the way that we need things presented are a little bit different. Like for me, if I'm told specifically what I should be doing, I can do pretty much anything. She, on the other hand, like literally has to, in some cases, get her hands dirty, like jump into it.
Yes. I like instructions, very detailed instructions, and then I want to go do. And I just want to keep doing until I have it as a routine so that I can just go to town and that is what makes me happiest, when I can just do my work on my own and just, all right, well, I have to go down, I have to look at this particular component, and then I have to say, all right, I know this, I can see this, all right, based on this, will it hurt something? Okay, we evaluate accordingly. And, I just have this very set straight of routines and things that I want to do and get this done.
Very interesting. I'm kind of like that myself, except I'm more like, if I read it in a manual and then clarify if I'm understanding it correctly, I'm good to go from there.
Yeah, I need more instructions. Lots more instructions are always helpful, or else I'll just keep asking more questions.
And
then,
you also like getting messy.
Yes.
And I hate getting messy.
I enjoy getting messy.
Maybe
I have no problem getting messy.
Get me messy with a dictionary, like learning a whole bunch of random phrases and facts, but like if you and I were to ever be having strawberry ice cream, I'd be the one that meticulously wipes off the corners of the mouth with a napkin, and she, on the other hand, would be
There'll
like...
be a mustache. There'll probably be a little bit of a goatee right there, too.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, that's normal for me eating ice cream.
So next we're going to move on to the third function, which I think is probably... It's a little bit difficult to describe because I'm so used to this being the go-to function that I have to try to describe it from a, well, make an effort function. So her tertiary function is extroverted thinking, which is my secondary function. From my perspective, extroverted thinking is the need to think out loud. So once I have finished taking in all this information and data, I need to express it in an extroverted format. So like for instance, this video is my extroverted thinking. I have this idea in my head and I'm expressing it outwardly to you guys. But having it as a third function, how would you describe that as being any different?
Well, I find that I only use it in very certain situations. Typically, when there's a lot in my head that it's just swimming around and it's just not going anywhere, I feel like I'm running in circles at that point, or it's just like, well, I feel like this, and I know that they're feeling like this, and there's all these facts here, but there's these facts here, and it's just back and forth of, what do I do with this? I don't know what's going on, because it's just, when I try to think it through, I still go back in circles. And so it takes me, laying out the facts in a very, not really orderly. I like to think it's orderly, but it's not really orderly. But, I have to physically talk to someone, whether it's like my mom or my sister, and say, well, this happened, and this happened, and this happened. And then all of a sudden, a puzzle piece will come into play, like, oh, well, there was also that thing, too. Oh, and then you can make those connections here, and suddenly, I can talk it out, and suddenly things make more sense.
It almost sounds like you act like me when you're under stress.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's been said that a Myers-Briggs type will sort of reverse functions when they're under stress.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of thing I do naturally. Whenever I have an idea, and once I've finished thinking about it, then I'll go into the kitchen and say, hey Mom, so I was just thinking the other day, and then we'll have a 2-hour long discussion about what I was thinking about. But you seem to only do that when you're stressed.
Yes.
That's why you like journaling and I don't.
Yes, yeah. Journaling is very helpful for when I want to deal with, complicated religious aspects or, other conflicts within my life or in my head. Whatever the case may be, I have to get it out. I need an outlet somewhere to say, there's this, and this happening, and me going in my head is just going nowhere, so I need to tell someone else so that they can help me make sense of this.
Hence why she's the extrovert. She can't handle being alone too long.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Whereas I'll be alone for several hours before I eventually say to someone, hey, I finished my train of thought.
Yeah, my train of thought is, okay, we're good!
Hence why you had zero preparation coming into this video, didn't you?
Just about, yeah. Preparation, improvise, go with the flow, adapt, all that fun stuff.
Yeah, sure, whatever. So, moving on to the inferior function, and if any of you are intuitives out there, brace yourselves, because boy do she and I have some things to say against intuitives. So just a brace yourself warning, be careful. If you're easily offended, you will be very easily offended at this point.
Don't mind us over here.
Intuition. Oh my goodness. The inability to be able to look at the larger scale of
the much larger picture, yes.
And try to figure out how this connects to this and that somehow equals this. It's okay, I can see where sometimes that has to happen because the Bible, for instance, certain books of the Bible go with other books of the Bible.
Sure.
But people might try to think a day when maybe I scratched my forehead has to do with the president's assassination in 1954. It's okay, those are not related in the slightest.
Yep. I don't know where you're coming from this. No. This makes no sense to me whatsoever. Where is your basis? Where is your evidence? I need evidence.
Now, that could be a gross misexaggeration, but to a sensing type, it certainly seems like everything is connected, or an intuitive might tend to overthink a situation that should be really simple.
Yes.
I had a friend of mine who was saying, well, Paul, when I get married, I plan on having this many guests, and I plan on having the groomsmen dress like this, and oh dear, my computer just, I'm used to it by now.
Oh, okay.
And so they'll say, I need this many people in my party, and we're going to be at this church. I said, do you even have a girlfriend yet? Well, no, but...
But it'll come with time, right?
He's an INTJ,
Yes.
so J's are a little bit different in that regard, but he's also an intuitive J, so he's going to be thinking ahead and already have planned out this non-existent wedding.
It's okay. Jessica has similar issues. My sister's an INTP. She just overthinks a lot of things.
Not to say we don't overthink things.
Oh no, we do too. Don't get us wrong.
We just often overthink what's already happened. Intuitives overthink what's going to happen with no basis on actual evidence.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm a little bit confused on is I have a hard time understanding intuition to begin with. My inferior function is extroverted intuition, meaning I'm going to be against change and innovation. Like, I'm often the first one to rebel when, like, a new video game system comes out, or like, oh, Paul, you have to switch to the debit card with the chip in it. It's like, what's the matter with the old debit card?
Yeah,
it worked before. What's the deal with that? But you have inferior introverted intuition, which, if I'm understanding functions correctly, that's the inability to be able to analyze what's going on and just go with it.
Yeah, it's going on inside my head, and I just, like, there's connections and there's more connections. And more often than not, it's using when I see myself using into that intuition, it's usually very self-destructively, if anything, because then it's like, well, I should have done this, because like Paul was saying, we use it to analyze the past, and it's like, well, you did this wrong, and because you did this, and then you also did that before, and did this before, therefore your life is ruined, or you have totally ruined your friendship with this person because you did this, and that, and blah, blah, and all this other crap. And so that's what it tends to be when it comes into play, and it's just like these connections that somehow can all suddenly make sense, and it's like, well, why didn't I think of that before? And it's like, because I would never make that connection otherwise normally. I don't think
doesn't
about
come
that.
Naturally, right?
No, it doesn't. I don't think that the weather this particular day and this person's one word response to this one thing is going to make that much of a difference. No, that's not a thing that I do.
I mean, sometimes people can be a bit grumpier during certain weathers, but...
Well, yes. Mm-hmm.
That's more on the lines of science rather than intuition.
Mm-hmm, yeah. But no, intuition is just... It's within my own head that I have big issues with it, and I have to... It's just within my head. It's not at all about people. Nothing to do with people in this case.
Well, okay, if some of you are still actually standing and not, like, crying off in a corner because we were, super insensitive, hey, I brought along a Fielder with me, so she kept me under control.
We like harmony.
Yes, you do. You like harmony.
Yes.
You also may have noticed that we only have one letter in common. And so, even though I said that types are determined by the functions and not by the letters, there's still a huge difference in our personalities, especially, I'm surprised you're not cracking up more than you already are, especially when it comes to the difference between judging and perceiving. Because whenever I take the Myers-Briggs test, I always score at least in the 80%, 79% range of judging. I am so super structure-oriented, guideline-oriented, deadline-oriented that, oh my goodness, it drives some people crazy. I came to her house today expecting to hang out, and I had an entire bulging backpack full of everything I wanted to do, and I had a rough itinerary and everything, and she was like,
okay, that works. Whatever works for me. I'm not particularly structured. It's like, I know you have a plan. I'm okay with this plan. I know we'll have a good time either way, and I'll make sure we have a good time either way, so I'm not terribly worried about it.
We were also joking out when we were having lunch before this video that we joked around that when it comes to something new and exciting in our lives, I need to be told about it a week or two in advance, and she can be told a minute in advance and be totally fine by it.
Oh yeah, it's not a big deal. Oh, new adventures. Okay, let's do it.
You'd think that would be an intuitive thing, but...
You would think, but no.
An apparent contradiction, I suppose.
Yes, that happens.
I mean, every Myers-Briggs type has some contradictions. Mm-hmm. It's my type is not adventurous, but yet I love climbing trees. And you would think that's pretty adventurous stuff, right?
Oh yeah, I'm terrible at climbing trees, but I'm all for it if it means that we can go try new things together. So, yeah, I'm sure that's more the extrovert sensing is ooh, let's go climb trees, yeah! But
I guess for me it's more like, oh, I've always been pretty good at climbing, so I'll just use what I learned and be a better climber.
But yeah, no.
Hence why when I was at the Ford Performing Arts Center and they had the rock climbing wall, the teacher was like, dang, where did you get this natural instinct for climbing? And at the time I couldn't remember where, but then I realized, like, oh yeah, I did climb trees a lot when I was a kid, so I have that climber's instinct when I'm on the rocks.
Yeah, I don't have that climber's instinct. Nope, we never climbed trees when I was growing up, so I'm much more the clumsy, I don't know what I'm doing, guys. Someone help me here. Tell me what to do,
But
because
at
I don't
least
know
you
what
don't
I'm
bump
doing.
into a pole.
No, I don't bump into poles. I just look really awkward doing it, so. But no, I'm just very flexible and adaptable when it comes to schedule and things happening. That's the big thing with me. I'm more than willing to try because it means that I can hang out with people and do stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm very much people-focused in that respect. I'm a people person, in case you hadn't noticed.
Yeah, in case you haven't noticed, like the elephant in the room, as they call it. Of like, she's very obviously an extrovert. Like, for her, it would like be draining to have like 2 days at home to herself. For me, I'd be like, thank goodness, it's noisy enough as it is at this house.
Yeah. And there's a stretch of time, and it's like, I've gone like 2 or 3 days without seeing people. We need to fix this like right now, guys. This really needs to be fixed, because I need people. I need people.
Well, I think every person is like that to an extent.
Yes.
They just prefer it to be like in contained, like orderly, like maybe a one-on-one or a one-on-two, or at least that's more like how I am.
I'm totally okay with one-on-one and one-on-two. That is not a problem. I don't have a preference for size. Let's put it that way. I enjoy one-on-ones a lot because it means
you could be with a 1-on-10?
Yeah.
1-on-20?
I mean, that's what happens on retreats
1-on-30?
That's also happened on retreat.
Oh my goodness, this...
It's not a big deal. I mean, I like being around people, for starters, but I think a part of the thing is that, there's dynamics within people, and it's so fascinating to watch. Don't you enjoy people watching?
Depends on the occasion.
Oh, see, that's why I love going to anime conventions.
Oh,
so
yuck.
much people watching. Oh, it's so much fun to watch this person is doing with this person, or this group with this group, and I can just stand there and I can watch it, and if they want some feedback, oh yeah, yell loudly, yeah, let's do this.
And I'd be like, but I don't understand the anime that you're into, so... Plus...
I don't know it either, but that's okay. I don't have to know what it is in order to get into it with them, though. And, there's a group here, there's a group there, and it's fascinating, because you can still see how they're getting into it, and it makes me get into it as a result. So, I can handle big groups. I don't want to be in the center of it. That's the big thing that they say about ESFP. I want to be the center of attention. Well, maybe not so much for me. I like to be in the group, but I don't necessarily want to be the center. That's not, if it's one-on-one, I'm okay with that. If it's 1-on-2 or 1-on-3, I can handle being on the center there, but in much larger groups, no. Definitely not.
Well, good to know you've got some introvert in you. But to sort of, in case you guys haven't watched my other Myers-Briggs videos where I say that being introverted or extroverted doesn't necessarily single you out as being shy or outgoing, she can attest to that. Like, I'm more of a night owl than an afternoon person, and sometimes I can talk for like a half hour straight on the phone.
Oh, yeah. And that's okay with me. I enjoy having our conversations and listening to him talk about this, and that, and that. And it's like, ooh, that's fascinating. Ooh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'll just ramble on. But then the lack of intuition in me is like, are you bored of me? Why didn't you shut me up because I talk too much? You're like, oh no, that's totally fine.
I'm cool. I have no problems with this. Yep. No. 1-on-1 is cool. 1-on-2, great. There's so much variety within different dynamics depending on if it's big or small groups,
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like, yay.
But
I can get to know a person better.
I think perhaps the biggest dynamic in our friendship that's similar, and I think that's what's kept us going for so long, is actually both of us are fairly, like, in terms of, like, where we measure on the thinking-feeling scale, she's about as close to being a thinker as I am to being a feeler. So in a sense, we kind of sort of balance each other out a bit. So there are times where, like, I might call her up and say that I have an issue that I normally wouldn't have comfort in talking about with any other person in particular, because, the stereotype, ISTJs are very private and reserved, so consider yourself lucky if you hear something. Mm-hmm. And also, she's close enough on the thinking so that she can often, like, help put things into perspective if I start getting my ISTJ catastrophe mode. She could be like, now, Paul, everything is not a disaster. The world is not blowing up in
Mm-mm.
front of you.
Mm-mm.
You're going to be fine. Everything is okay. Here, let me just give you a hug and fix everything.
Yes, because hugs.
Oh, okay. That'll work too.
Yes, but no, hugs are good, and practicality is even better. Yes.
Indeed, the practicality of love, that novel I was writing.
But no, practicality is very helpful, and it's just, I won't say I enjoy giving advice, but I want to help. That's the big thing. I want to help, and if he has a catastrophe, wait, hang on, what is this catastrophe? Explain this to me first, and then we shall see if it's really a catastrophe. Okay.
And then I enjoy being able to make a difference in society, and sometimes like my introverted feeling can help to do it in a way that doesn't seem like so bossy or rude, because how many times have I had to apologize for the way I talk?
You apologize, and it doesn't bother me.
happens.
Yep, it's necessary. You know, we all say things that was like, oh, that came out wrong. I do apologize. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, and that happens. Then we live and learn, and we move on. Or if you're like the diaper commercial, live and learn, get hugs. I think it is, or is it loves? One of the two.
That better not be a diaper commercial.
It was once upon a time years ago. Live and
Well,
learn,
thank
and you get loves.
goodness, thank goodness I wasn't around during that time. So we got a little bit over 25 minutes. The planner in me is like cringing at the thought. But I hope you enjoyed our take on our personality types and like how we have that common ground, assuming we actually managed to get around to that. I guess both liking hugs works. Both liking Ace Attorney works.
And Harry Potter.
And Harry Potter. Don't get us started on Harry Potter, if you remember the previous video I did.
Yep, that's a long, long day.
Oh, yes. Anywho, so I will do my famous closing slogan, and then if you have like a slogan you want to say to the audience, go for it.
I have no slogan to speak of. I just kind of, do my wave and say goodbye. So.
Okay, cool. So thank you very much for watching, my friends. As always, keep the faith, stay epic, and God bless. Bye.
Have a good one. It's good to see you all. Bye.
Bye.